Mr. Fujaki, maybe in the case, maybe I can say a few words on behalf of the President. And really, President Thomas Morales regrets that he can't be here today. He really wants to be here, as we all know he has a lot of obligations in diplomacy, and particularly in promoting of Japan and U.S. relations. Your presence will mean a great deal to all of us here, administration, staff, faculty, and most importantly, our students. We look forward to your presentation keynote today, and we look forward to a very productive and successful day of your visit. And thank you again, and it's our great honor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chen and Dr. Amano.
For the KJ, I think
because we didn't send you this card before.
I was briefed by the colleagues, and they were very impressed by the delegation.
As for this delegation, my colleague Yamakawa-san will explain it too.
Oh, okay.
In a way, if Japan would have been sending a team a decade ago, the 5 members would all be looking like Mr. Yoreyama and myself. But this time, as you can see, we are the minority. Beautiful printed pen. Thank you very much. I'd like to present to you this medal. Thank you. Medal of recognition. Thank you very much.
And one right
I believe today's event is a great opportunity for exchanging our cultures and building some of these bridges. Thank you for participating in Japan Day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Amaya. I think no one here would envy my job. Have to speak after such a beautiful music. So I'll talk about 3 things: economy, security policy, and diplomacy. I'll be very honest. I'm not a government official. So that doesn't mean that when I was government official, I was not honest. But I try to be a little bit more honest than when I was as ambassador. Now, economy. A lot of people say that Japan was under deflation for 20 years. But that's an exaggeration. In the United States as well, when the leader comes, he has to say everything before him was dark ages. Nothing was good. And it's a bit like that. Because from 2003 to 2007, average GDP growth was 1.9% in Japan, thanks to poison reform. That time, EU was 2.2%, US was 2.7%, so we were in 1% range. However, as you know, in 2008, Lehman shock occurred. That started in Wall Street, but hit Japan most. Our industrial output went down by 22%. Export went down by 33%. Our GDP went down to minus 5.5%. That was 50-year low. Why? Because Japanese exports or outputs were like, as you can, automobile or camera or whatever, you can wait to buy. It's not food or something you always need to consume. So our economy was hit very badly. And we started to regain in 2010. The growth rate was 4.4%. And in 2011, 3/11 disaster happened again. So I'm not attributing everything to these reasons, but it is a little exaggerated that no effort was done all 20 years. But talking about 3/11, we were enormously helped by American people. People around the world helped us, but we were so fortunate that Americans stood by us at most difficult time in our post-war history. I was in Washington. I felt really that American people, American kids, all helped us. Some of the children came with a birthday present and give it to me or whatever, and this was so impressive. So 4 years have passed. It's still on the way to recovery, but I would like to say that Japanese people never forget this friendship. Thank you very much. Arigatou gozaimasu. But talking about economy, others changed something very dramatically. That is psychology. Come to think of it, economy is nothing but, I'm sorry, there's an economy professor, I shouldn't be saying that. It's not mathematics, but psychology. If you think economy is going to be good, people will invest, people will consume. If people think economy is going to be bad, they will not do so. And he tried to use that psychology. And he brought 3 policies. He called 3 arrows. One was fiscal policy, one was a monetary policy, third was the structural policy reform. 3 arrows because 400 years ago, one samurai lord was in a dying bed and he pulled 3 sons and gave each one an arrow and said, try to break it. And each son was able to break it easily. And then the father bundled it and said, try to break it, and no one was able to break it. So he said, you stick together, 3 sons, and no one can really attack you. That was the reason 3 arrow were used. So the first 2 arrows were quite effective. Stock price went up in 2.5 years, 88%. That was a really huge change. And that's because of this psychology change. I always grudge that why didn't I invest a little bit? I didn't have the funds, so well, I can do it. But now, I'm not saying that we are really now at a very great situation. We have many challenges. One, big industry, big companies are pretty good, but small companies not yet. Tokyo is affluent, but smaller cities not yet. We still have huge government debt. You are screaming with 100% government debt versus GDP. Japanese government debt versus GDP is 200%. So that's a huge issue we have to be facing, and that's why government raised consumption tax from 5 to 8, and they were trying to raise it from 8 to 10 again, but now postponed because that cooled down the economy very badly. So that's a huge difficulty. Now nuclear as well. We were number 3 in the world, US, France, and Japan. We had 54. Now 0 operating because after Fukushima. Because every 13 months, nuclear power station have to be maintenanced, and then after that have to get local agreement. And there was no consensus. People were so divided on this. And now, slowly, we are thinking of starting war, but it's a huge change because before, 26% of our electricity was dependent on nuclear. And by 2030, we were going to do it to 50%. Now, we have to change that strategy totally. Also, Japanese birth rate is 1.3, which is the lowest among OECD countries, or the world. And you'll listen to my colleagues that we have to empower women more. And we have to have more foreign workers as well. So these are challenges. But now, this government of Abe is trying to tackle them more than other governments have done. The reason is that he won really a landslide victory. He got a landslide victory November last year. So he will have 4 more years without lower house election, and he has upper house as well. It was divided government for so many years. So now he has both upper house and lower house, and so he has no election. So that's why he can now tackle agricultural problems, and he's doing that. So people think that there are, of course, vested interests. So it's not an easy task, but we know that without that, Japan can't really revitalize our economy. That's our challenge, and we are facing it. Now, second is security policy. There's a sort of a misunderstanding that because Abe is seen to be a very right-wing leader, Japan is seen to be going very different from the security policy Japan was pursuing for a long time. But in essence, this is wrong, because what he has been pushing is something like collective self-defense. Collective self-defense means that if other country is attacked, you can help that country if you think that is necessary for you. So if US is here in Japan, is helping Japan, we could not have helped US when US was attacked by some country near Japan. But now, with the change of interpretation, we are trying to allow that to happen. And in a nutshell, this means that the government is trying to fortify US-Japan relations, US-Japan security relations. It's not that Japan going independent at all. Because, very frankly, we had US-Japan security treaty for 40, 50 years. No, I'm sorry, 60 years. It was concluded in 1952 and now, so 6 years. Never it was felt that this is so important, because it's in the last 15 years, last 10 years that our neighboring countries started to come around us, flying missile over our country, sending ships to our territorial sea. So when President Obama came last April and said, US-Japan Security Treaty covers Japanese territory, including Senkaku, and any measure to undermine Japan, Japanese authorities, would be proposed by the United States. This was such a reassuring word to Japanese, and this was uttered many times by Secretary of State of Defense, but first time by American President, and that is the deterrence. So as long as US is seen to be credible by Japanese, I think Japanese would continue its policy of relying on the United States. That's the second point. Third, diplomacy. Our relations with our surrounding countries. Very frankly, relations with China and Korea were not too good for the last several years. Two reasons. One, the island issues. We have an issue with China, we have an issue with Korea as well. Second reason is history issue, like conflict women or Prime Minister going to Yasukuni. I think the island issue, these issues, these are not so easy to be sort of solved. We have to be very patient. Second, as for the history issue, I think we, Japan, should be sensitive to the feeling of others because of what we have done before. However, at the same time, we hope others will not only indulge in the past, but be forward-looking as well. When I was ambassador, I went to Japanese language school in Washington. And there were about 500 students, not only Japanese, but Japanese language learning students. That was the time that Senkaku issue was pretty big and high, and there was a lot of demonstrations in China. I said to students, please don't discuss this issue. Leave it to your parents or to the government or adults. It's important to learn the language. After English, if you master English, please learn Chinese or Korean. I learned French as second language, but if I were them, I would have learned Chinese or Korean and make friends with them. Don't just learn some historical facts from your father or mother and try to dispute with Chinese origin or Korean origin kids who just learn some facts from your father and mother, and they don't. It's real. Those antagonists is nothing but unproductive. So nothing but productive. So I have pleaded them, and very frankly, this is not a very popular view, maybe in my country, but I believe in it. And I hope you are not middle school kids, but I don't think it's necessary for students to discuss or dispute these issues. Please, if you have that time, try to learn languages. Thank you very much.